Life has moments that shake us to our core. Moments when the heart feels heavy, when prayers feel longer, and when the questions in our mind seem endless. Why is this happening to me? Why this pain? Why this struggle? Why this test? Many people believe that hardship means Allah is angry with them. But the truth revealed in Islam is completely different. Sometimes the greatest tests come to those whom Allah loves the most. The prophets were tested, the righteous were tested, and every believer walking the path of faith will face moments that challenge their patience and trust. But hidden within every test is a powerful secret, a secret that can transform pain into strength, difficulty into growth, and struggle into closeness with Allah. Today, we will uncover why Allah tests those He loves and how you can remain strong through every trial. Life has a way of making us question everything when hardship enters our lives. When things go wrong, when doors close, when pain lingers longer than we expected, many people immediately assume that something must be wrong with them. They begin to think that perhaps Allah is displeased with them, that maybe their prayers were not accepted, or that they are being punished. These thoughts quietly grow inside the heart and slowly weaken a person's hope. But the truth that Islam teaches us is very different from what many people assume. Hardship is not always a sign of anger. In many cases, it is actually a sign of love. When Allah chooses someone for something greater, their path is rarely easy. The people who were closest to Allah were not the ones who lived lives of comfort and ease. They were the ones who faced the greatest trials. Think about the lives of the prophets. Their journeys were filled with rejection, loneliness, loss, and immense pressure. Yet they were the most beloved to Allah. Their hardships were not punishments. Their hardships were preparation. Through every difficulty they faced, Allah was shaping their patience, strengthening their faith, and raising their ranks. Sometimes Allah tests a person because He wants to bring that person closer to Him. When life becomes too comfortable, the human heart can become distracted. People begin to rely on their own strength, their own plans, and their own abilities. They forget how fragile life really is. They forget how much they truly need their Creator. But when a trial enters their life, suddenly their heart turns back to Allah. Their prayers become deeper, their dawahs become more sincere, their connection with Allah becomes stronger than it ever was before. There are moments in life when a difficulty appears and it changes a person completely. A challenge that once seemed unbearable becomes the reason someone starts praying regularly. A painful loss becomes the moment someone begins speaking to Allah in the middle of the night. A closed door becomes the reason someone learns to trust Allah's wisdom instead of their own plans. What looked like a problem was actually a pathway. What felt like hardship was actually guidance. Allah sees what we cannot see. He knows the future that we do not know. Sometimes a test is placed in someone's life because it protects them from something far worse. Other times a test appears because Allah wants to elevate that person's status in ways they could never reach through easy days alone. Good deeds raise a believer's rank, but patience during hardship raises it even higher. A moment of sincere patience can transform a person's spiritual level in ways that years of comfort never could. A believer begins to see life differently once they understand this reality. Instead of immediately assuming that hardship means rejection, they start asking a different question. They begin to ask what Allah might be teaching them through this moment. They start to search for the wisdom hidden inside the difficulty. The pain may still exist, the challenge may still be real, but the meaning behind it becomes clearer. The believer realizes that Allah's love does not always appear in the form of ease. Sometimes His love appears in the form of a test that strengthens the soul. There is also something deeply powerful about the way trials purify the heart. Every human being carries mistakes, weaknesses, and shortcomings. None of us are perfect. But Allah in His mercy allows certain hardships to wipe away sins and cleanse the believer. What might seem like a heavy moment in life could actually be removing burdens from the hereafter. A difficulty that brings tears today might be the very reason someone stands lighter on the day of judgment. When a believer begins to understand that tests can be signs of Allah's love, their perspective starts to change. They no longer measure their relationship with Allah based only on how easy their life feels. Instead, they begin to trust that even in the moments of struggle, Allah is still guiding them, still protecting them, and still shaping their journey in ways that will benefit them far beyond what they can see right now. Some of the strongest believers in the world were not built during comfortable days. Their strength was formed during nights of uncertainty, during seasons when they had no choice but to rely completely on Allah. Those moments carved patience into their hearts, Those moments taught them humility. Those moments gave them a level of faith that comfort alone could never create. So when a believer faces a test, it does not automatically mean they are abandoned. It does not automatically mean they have been rejected. In many cases, it means something far more powerful. It means that Allah sees potential within them. It means that Allah is shaping them for something greater. It means that through this test, their faith is being refined, their soul is being strengthened, and their relationship with their Creator is being deepened in ways that ordinary days could never accomplish. Every human being, no matter how strong or faithful they believe themselves to be, will face trials in their life. This is a reality that cannot be avoided. There is no one who is exempt from challenges, no one who will pass through life untouched by difficulties. From the moment a person begins to walk the path of faith, tests will appear in various forms. Some are small and subtle, while others shake the very foundation of the heart. These trials are universal. They touch the rich and the poor, the learned and the simple, the young and the old. The Quran makes it very clear that life is a test, and every soul will experience it in ways unique to their own circumstances, yet equally profound in its purpose. Some people might look at others and think, why does he seem to have everything so easy? Or why is she never facing difficulties like mine? But no matter the appearance, every soul is carrying its own test, its own responsibility, its own challenge. Trials are not always visible. They are sometimes hidden within the heart, within decisions, within struggles that no one else can see. A believer's test might be patience under pressure, controlling anger, staying honest when no one is watching, maintaining faith when the world seems to be collapsing around them. Another believer's trial may be financial hardship, the illness of a loved one, or facing rejection for speaking the truth. No trial is too small for Allah's notice, and no trial is too large for His wisdom. Understanding that tests are inevitable helps a person prepare their heart. It allows them to stop comparing their journey with others and instead focus on their own relationship with Allah. If trials are going to come, and they will, it is better to meet them with faith, patience, and understanding rather than with despair or complaint. Believers who recognize this are able to transform even the most difficult moments into opportunities for spiritual growth. They learn that these challenges are not random. They are carefully designed by Allah to shape their character, refine their faith, and elevate their soul. Life without tests would be a life without depth. Without hardship, the heart remains soft, the character remains untested, and faith often remains shallow. It is in the midst of difficulties that a believer's true strength is revealed. When the storms come, a person who has not faced any challenges might be overwhelmed, yet the one who has learned to endure, to persevere, to trust in Allah, stands firm. This is why every believer, regardless of their current circumstances, will face trials. It is not a sign of weakness nor a mark of failure. It is a necessary part of the journey towards spiritual maturity and closeness to Allah. Even the prophets, peace be upon them, were not spared from tests. Their lives were filled with moments of tremendous difficulty, moments where they were misunderstood, rejected, and faced enormous challenges in fulfilling their missions. Their experiences serve as examples to all believers that no level of faith guarantees an easy life. Rather, what faith guarantees is guidance, strength, and the presence of Allah in the heart during every trial. Every believer is on a path that is designed for their growth, and along this path, tests are unavoidable companions, shaping the soul and refining the spirit in ways that comfort never could. When a believer accepts that tests are a natural and inevitable part of life, they begin to approach challenges differently. Instead of despairing, they ask themselves how to respond in a way that pleases Allah. They seek patience where others might seek escape. They seek understanding where others might seek blame. And they look for lessons where others might see only pain. It is this mindset that transforms ordinary trials into extraordinary opportunities for spiritual elevation. Every challenge becomes a teacher, every difficulty becomes a pathway, and every test becomes a means of drawing closer to Allah, strengthening faith, and proving the depth of one's sincerity. The inevitability of tests is also a reminder that life is not meant to be solely about comfort or ease. The purpose of creation, the reason Allah has placed us on this earth, is to worship Him and to grow in righteousness. If life were free from challenges, it would be easy to become distracted, complacent, or arrogant. Tests remind the believer of their dependence on Allah, of the fragility of human existence, and of the importance of seeking His guidance in all matters. They are constant reminders that faith is not measured by the absence of hardship, but by the endurance, patience, and trust a person displays when facing trials. Faith is not something that grows overnight, nor is it something that remains strong without effort. True faith, true fast and amen, is forged in the fires of life's difficulties, shaped by challenges and strengthened through trials. When a believer encounters hardship, it is easy to feel discouraged, to feel as if the weight of the world is too heavy to bear. Yet it is precisely in these moments that the heart has the greatest opportunity to grow, to deepen, and to connect with Allah on a level that comfort alone could never produce. The believer begins to realize that tests are not obstacles meant to break them, but instruments meant to build them. Every trial, no matter how painful, carries within it a lesson for the believer. When patience is exercised in the face of adversity, faith is strengthened. When a person relies solely on Allah during moments of fear, uncertainty, or loss, their trust in Him deepens. These moments become markers in the heart, proof of a faith that is alive, active, and growing. The believer discovers a strength they never knew they possessed, a resilience that emerges only when human ability seems insufficient. It is through such experiences that one begins to understand the reality of their dependence on Allah, that human strength alone is fragile, but combined with divine support, it becomes unshakable. The process of strengthening faith through trials is both subtle and profound. At first, a test may feel like an unbearable burden, something that threatens to consume the spirit. But as the believer turns to Allah with sincerity, praying for guidance, seeking solace in the Quran and trusting in His wisdom, a transformation begins. The heart becomes firmer, the mind clearer, and the soul more aligned with the divine purpose. Small victories emerge, the ability to remain patient when anger rises, to act with honesty when deception is tempting, to speak with kindness when bitterness wants to take over. Each small victory is a brick in the foundation of stronger iman. Hardships also illuminate the weaknesses that the believer was previously unaware of. It is in moments of difficulty that hidden fears, impatience, or doubts often surface. This awareness is a gift, for recognizing these weaknesses is the first step towards strengthening faith. Believer learns to confront these internal struggles, to rely on Allah for support, and to trust that every moment of difficulty is an opportunity to correct, improve, and grow. Without these challenges, the heart might remain unaware of its own flaws, and faith might never reach its full depth. The Quran and Hadith repeatedly emphasize that patience and perseverance in the face of hardship are rewarded immensely. Trials are not merely tests, they are instruments of elevation. Every hardship endured with faith and trust elevates the believer's spiritual rank, removes sins, and draws the heart closer to Allah. The believer begins to see life through a different lens, realizing that true success is not measured by worldly ease or material comfort, but by the strength, resilience, and depth of one's faith. Difficulties become opportunities to practice gratitude, to exercise trust, and to demonstrate reliance upon Allah in ways that smooth easy days never could. Moreover, the strengthening of faith through trials creates a light within the believer that shines even during the darkest moments. This inner light manifests as hope, confidence, and unwavering trust that Allah is always present even when circumstances seem impossible. When faith is tested and survives, it becomes a living testimony of divine support, a reflection of the believer's sincerity, and a source of inspiration for others. The believer learns to move forward with courage, to face life's storms with steadfastness, and to view each trial not as a setback, but as a divine tool for spiritual elevation. The beauty of this process is that the strengthening of faith is not limited to the specific moment of trial. Once the believer has endured, once patience has been exercised, the lessons learned, the resilience gained, and the closeness with Allah remain. The soul becomes fortified for future challenges, the heart becomes disciplined in reliance upon Allah, and the spirit grows in a way that transforms every aspect of life. What once seemed unbearable now becomes a source of profound growth, a testimony that faith is not passive but dynamic, alive, and strengthened precisely when it is tested. There is a profound wisdom in the fact that Allah never burdens a soul beyond its capacity. This is one of the most comforting truths a believer can hold on to in times of hardship. Life can feel overwhelming at times. The problems may seem too many, the challenges too great, and the heart too weak to endure. Yet Allah, in His infinite knowledge and mercy, knows exactly what each person can handle. Every trial, every difficulty, every test that comes into a believer's life is measured with precision, tailored perfectly to their abilities, their resilience, and their faith. Even when a situation feels unbearable, even when the weight seems too heavy, the truth is that Allah has already placed within the believer the strength, the patience, and the wisdom necessary to navigate it. This understanding changes the way a believer faces life. When someone realizes that no hardship is accidental or random, they begin to see a deeper purpose behind their struggles. Instead of feeling defeated, they can remind themselves that Allah is aware of their limits and has not abandoned them to face more than they can endure. The human heart often underestimates its own capacity to endure, yet countless examples throughout history demonstrate that when tested, people often exceed what they believed possible. Challenges reveal hidden reserves of strength, courage, and faith that had lain dormant until circumstances demanded their emergence. Recognizing that Allah measures every test also cultivates trust. When a believer faces an intense struggle, they can rest in the knowledge that there is a divine plan at work. There is wisdom even when it is not immediately visible. The test is not a sign of failure or inadequacy. It is an opportunity for growth, a chance to develop resilience, patience, and reliance upon Allah. The believer understands that even in moments of despair, they are not being crushed beyond their ability. Instead, they are being strengthened, shaped, and prepared for something greater that lies ahead. This principle also reminds believers to approach hardship with humility and submission. It encourages a mindset of surrender where the heart accepts that Allah's knowledge far surpasses human understanding. The believer learns that what may feel like an unbearable burden in the moment is in reality within their capacity to handle. They learn to break down seemingly impossible problems into manageable steps, to take one day, 1 hour, or even one moment at a time, trusting that Allah has equipped them for this very trial. This mindset transforms fear into courage, anxiety into trust, and weakness into a hidden strength that grows steadily under pressure. Furthermore, understanding that every soul's capacity is taken into account inspires gratitude. Even in moments of hardship, a believer can reflect on the fact that Allah knows their limits and would never push them beyond what they can bear. This awareness brings peace to the heart even when the mind struggles to comprehend the reason behind a particular difficulty. The believer begins to approach life's trials with patience, knowing that endurance will bring reward, and that every moment of struggle is an expression of divine care rather than neglect. Believers also begin to see the connection between capacity and growth. Every challenge is not only something they can endure, but something they were meant to endure for their own spiritual development. Difficulties that feel overwhelming are opportunities to strengthen character, refine faith, and cultivate qualities like patience, gratitude, humility, and resilience. Allah, in His wisdom, knows that these qualities cannot be developed in comfort alone. They require moments that test the soul, stretch the heart, and demand reliance upon the divine. This knowledge encourages believers to face trials with courage and determination. Instead of avoiding difficulty or resenting it, they recognize that each test has been designed with their unique abilities in mind. It inspires perseverance, for the believer knows that no trial is too great for them to withstand. When coupled with trust in Allah, it also fosters a sense of hope, for if a situation feels manageable, it is a sign that Allah believes in their ability to navigate it. And even if the test feels intense, the believer understands that they already possess the tools, the inner strength, and the divine support needed to emerge stronger, wiser, and closer to Allah than before. This principle also brings immense comfort in moments of isolation, when one feels alone against the weight of their problems. The believer remembers that Allah, who knows the soul intimately, has never given a trial that exceeds their capacity. There is divine wisdom behind every difficulty, divine timing behind every challenge, and divine strength available for every burden. Recognizing this truth allows a believer to endure with grace, to remain steadfast in faith, and to continue moving forward, knowing that nothing in their life is without purpose, and that every test is carefully measured according to what they can bear. Patience, or Sabr, is one of the most powerful tools a believer can possess when facing life's trials. It is not merely the ability to wait, it is the ability to endure with grace, to remain steadfast in faith, and to trust in Allah's wisdom even when the heart is heavy and the circumstances seem unbearable. The Quran repeatedly emphasizes the importance of patience, pairing it with the promise of reward and the closeness of Allah. Those who exercise patience are not merely surviving difficulties, they are actively participating in a process that elevates their soul, strengthens their character, and solidifies their faith. Patience is often tested in the most subtle ways. It may come in the form of delays, disappointments, or unfulfilled desires. A believer may pray for something earnestly, yet the response seems slow or distant. Perhaps they are striving in their work, seeking relief, or longing for a change in their circumstances, yet the situation remains the same. It is in these moments that patience becomes essential. Patience is not passive resignation. It is a conscious choice to trust Allah's timing, to remain steadfast, and to continue doing what is right even when immediate results are not visible. Every act of patience strengthens the believer's resilience and teaches the heart to rely completely on Allah rather than on fleeting worldly circumstances. Enduring with patience also purifies the heart. Human beings are naturally inclined to react with frustration, anger, or despair when things do not go their way. But when a believer chooses patience, they are training the soul to respond with wisdom and composure rather than impulsiveness and regret. This practice transforms trials into opportunities for spiritual growth. The very act of restraining impatience, of controlling one's emotions in the face of difficulty, and of turning back to Allah for guidance is itself a form of worship. Each patient response becomes a building block, strengthening faith, deepening reliance on Allah, and refining character in ways that comfort and ease never could. The rewards for patience are immense, both in this life and in the hereafter. The Prophet Muhammad described patience as a light in times of darkness, a shield against despair, and a means of drawing closer to Allah. Every moment of true patience, whether in silence or in action, brings spiritual elevation. Trials that once seemed overwhelming begin to be seen in a new light, as opportunities to grow closer to Allah and to earn rewards that cannot be measured by worldly standards. The believer begins to understand that suffering, when met with patience, is transformed into a form of worship, a source of blessing and a pathway to divine favor. Patience also teaches perspective. When the heart is tested and remains patient, it gains clarity. The believer begins to see that worldly hardships are temporary and that they carry lessons far beyond the immediate difficulty. They start to recognize that the ultimate reward is not found in avoiding hardship, but in enduring it with faith and trust. The strength gained through patience prepares the believer for future challenges, creating a resilience that becomes part of their spiritual DNA. Life no longer feels like a series of obstacles to be avoided, but as a series of lessons to be embraced, each designed to elevate the believer closer to Allah. Moreover, patience fosters hope. It is the bridge between despair and trust. When a person is patient in the face of trial, they are not giving up, they are waiting, enduring, and trusting that Allah's plan is better than what they could envision. Patience allows the heart to remain steady even when storms rage around it. It creates an inner calm, a sense of assurance that no matter how difficult the test, it is within the believer's capacity to endure, and Allah's wisdom and mercy are at work in every circumstance. The transformative power of patience is also seen in how it shapes relationships and interactions. A patient heart is a humble heart, a heart that is forgiving, compassionate, and understanding. When a believer practices patience with others, in addition to themselves, they become a source of comfort and guidance. Patience softens harsh words, tempers anger, and encourages empathy. Trials in life, when met with patience, not only strengthen personal faith, but also positively impact the world around the believer. Finally, the practice of patience during trials teaches a believer the essence of reliance upon Allah. It is a constant reminder that ultimate control lies with Him alone. The believer who is patient learns to surrender fully, to release worry, and to place their trust in divine wisdom. They discover that every moment of endurance, every pause instead of reaction, and every quiet reliance on Allah is a step closer to spiritual elevation, divine reward. And a heart that is truly at peace amidst life's inevitable difficulties. Trials and hardships are not meaningless events in a believer's life. They serve a profound spiritual purpose that often goes unseen by the human eye. One of the greatest realities of life is that challenges have the power to remove sins and elevate the believer's rank in the sight of Allah. Every test, whether it comes in the form of personal loss, financial difficulty, illness, or emotional pain, carries within it the potential to purify the heart and cleanse the soul. In Islam, suffering is not merely a burden to endure, it is a means of spiritual refinement, a process through which the believer's imperfections are addressed and their faith is strengthened. When a person faces hardship, the natural response is often to question, to feel despair, or even to become angry. But for the believer who understands the wisdom behind trials, these difficulties take on a completely different meaning. Each hardship is like a spiritual washing, removing arrogance, pride, and the distractions of worldly desires. A person who struggles financially may learn humility and gratitude. A person who loses a loved one may gain empathy and a deeper understanding of life's impermanence. A person who faces rejection or criticism may cultivate patience, resilience, and reliance on Allah. In every challenge, there is a hidden benefit that serves to elevate the believer above what they could achieve through ease alone. The removal of sins through trials is one of the most beautiful aspects of Allah's mercy. Human beings are imperfect, they make mistakes, commit sins, and carry burdens upon their hearts. Yet Allah, in His infinite wisdom, allows trials to act as a purification process. The difficulties that seem overwhelming are actually opportunities to erase past wrongs and start anew spiritually. The believer who responds with patience, prayer, and trust experiences a cleansing effect that brings them closer to Allah, making their faith more sincere, their heart lighter, and their character stronger. This purification is not always visible immediately, but its impact is lasting, shaping the soul in ways that reward in this life and the hereafter. Moreover, trials elevate the believer's rank in the eyes of Allah. The Quran and Hadith repeatedly emphasize that those who endure hardships with patience, trust, and perseverance are rewarded with a higher spiritual status. The act of enduring a test with sincerity demonstrates the depth of faith, the strength of character, and the willingness to submit fully to Allah's wisdom. These experiences differentiate a believer who relies on comfort and ease from one who rises above adversity through steadfastness. Spiritual rank is not measured by material wealth or worldly success, but by the quality of faith, the sincerity of worship, and the endurance shown during life's most difficult moments. This process also transforms the believer's perspective on suffering. Instead of seeing trials as punishment, they begin to understand them as opportunities for elevation and purification. A loss that once brought despair becomes a reason to grow closer to Allah. A failure that once seemed devastating becomes a lesson in humility and patience. A long period of struggle becomes a pathway to a stronger, more resilient faith. The believer learns that trials are not obstacles to be avoided, but gifts in disguise, carefully designed to remove what hinders spiritual growth and to raise the soul to a higher station. The cleansing effect of hardship also nurtures gratitude and awareness. When a person experiences difficulty and survives it with patience, they begin to value the blessings they once took for granted. Their heart becomes more attuned to the mercy of Allah, and their soul is prepared to receive greater guidance. Trials refine the believer's character, teaching empathy, humility, and compassion. They learn to comfort others, to forgive more easily, and to recognize the struggles that others may face. The process of enduring and overcoming hardship creates not only spiritual elevation, but also a transformation of character that radiates outward, impacting the believer's relationships and interactions with the world. Every test, no matter how intense or prolonged, has the potential to serve this divine purpose. It is a mechanism through which sins are washed away, hearts are strengthened, and spiritual ranks are elevated. The believer who endures with patience and reliance upon Allah is participating in a process of spiritual growth that is both profound and transformative. Through every hardship, the soul is being purified, the heart is being molded, and the faith is being solidified. Each trial is a reminder that worldly suffering is temporary, that the lessons are eternal, and that Allah's wisdom ensures that no difficulty is wasted, no struggle is meaningless, and no moment of endurance goes unrewarded. The understanding that trials remove sins and raise spiritual rank also inspires hope and perseverance. The believer begins to see that their struggles have a purpose beyond immediate comfort. Every hardship becomes a stepping stone toward greater closeness with Allah, a means of cleansing past mistakes and a way to earn rewards that cannot be measured in this life. This perspective transforms suffering from a source of despair into a source of strength, reassurance, and motivation. The believer realizes that enduring with patience is not simply surviving, it is actively participating in the elevation of the soul, the purification of the heart, and the attainment of a higher spiritual status that will shine brightly both in this world and in the hereafter. Life is full of moments that feel heavy, moments when the heart aches and the mind struggles to find peace. In such times, it can be difficult to see any light at the end of the tunnel. Yet, one of the most profound truths in Islam is that after every hardship comes ease. Allah, in His infinite mercy, does not burden a soul without providing relief. Trials, no matter how intense, are always followed by moments of comfort, resolution, and blessing. The pattern of life is such that difficulty is temporary and relief is certain. This principle is a source of immense hope for the believer, reminding them that their current struggles are not permanent, that the heaviness they feel will be lifted, and that Allah's mercy is always near. Understanding that ease follows hardship allows the believer to endure with patience and courage. When faced with trials, instead of despairing, the heart can remain hopeful, trusting that no situation, no matter how dire, will last forever. This knowledge transforms the believer's perspective on suffering. What once felt like a punishment or an insurmountable obstacle is now seen as a temporary phase, a necessary step toward growth and spiritual elevation. The believer learns to recognize that every trial carries within it a promise, a hidden opportunity for relief and blessing, and a chance for the heart to become stronger, more resilient, and more attuned to Allah's wisdom. This promise of ease also encourages perseverance. When the heart knows that relief is coming, it becomes easier to remain steadfast, to continue striving in the face of adversity, and to maintain trust in Allah. Patience is no longer simply a test of endurance, but a conscious choice to remain connected to Allah while navigating life's storms. Each moment of struggle is an opportunity to strengthen faith, to practice gratitude even in difficulty, and to trust in divine timing. The believer begins to understand that hardships are not signs of abandonment, but steps along a path that leads to comfort, clarity, and spiritual growth. Ease that follows hardship is not always immediate or predictable, and it may not always appear in the form the believer expects. Sometimes relief comes through answers to prayer, solutions to problems, or the restoration of peace in the heart. Other times it manifests as lessons learned, spiritual growth, or new opportunities that were hidden behind the struggle. The believer who is patient and sincere in their reliance on Allah begins to see that the timing, form, and impact of ease are always perfect, even if they cannot understand it in the moment. This realization cultivates deep trust and contentment, allowing the believer to face each trial with calm and confidence. The experience of hardship followed by ease also fosters resilience. The believer learns that life's challenges are not permanent, that no matter how intense the storm, there is always a calm that follows. This understanding reduces fear, anxiety, and despair, replacing them with hope, determination, and confidence in Allah's plan. Each test endured becomes a reminder that relief is coming, that patience is rewarded, and that struggles serve a purpose beyond the immediate discomfort. The believer becomes spiritually stronger, more disciplined, and more capable of handling future challenges with faith and wisdom. Moreover, the knowledge that ease comes after hardship encourages a mindset of gratitude. The believer begins to appreciate not only the relief itself, but also the journey that led to it. Difficult moments, though painful, become opportunities to grow closer to Allah, to refine character, and to develop a deeper understanding of life's purpose. When ease arrives, it is not merely the absence of difficulty, but a reward for endurance, a reflection of divine mercy, and a confirmation that every trial has meaning. The heart becomes more appreciative, the spirit more joyful, and the faith more resilient. This principle also teaches the believer about the cyclical nature of life. Just as hardship will eventually be followed by ease, no moment of difficulty is permanent and no blessing is to be taken for granted. Every challenge carries a hidden promise, and every struggle holds the seed of relief and growth. The believer learns to navigate life with balance, recognizing that both hardship and ease are parts of the journey, each serving a purpose in shaping faith, character, and spiritual understanding. Ultimately, the certainty that after every difficulty comes ease transforms the believer's approach to life. It allows them to endure hardship with hope rather than despair, to embrace trials as opportunities rather than burdens, and to remain steadfast in faith despite uncertainty. The heart becomes a place of patience, trust, and expectation of mercy. The believer begins to see life's challenges not as endings, but as beginnings, moments that, when met with patience and reliance on Allah, lead inevitably to relief, blessing, and a deeper closeness to the Creator. In the journey of life, every believer will face trials, hardships, and moments that test the very core of their faith. Yet these challenges are not signs of Allah's anger or abandonment. They are expressions of His love, opportunities for growth, and pathways to spiritual elevation. Every test, every difficulty, every moment of struggle carries within it a purpose to strengthen the heart, purify the soul, build patience, and draw the believer closer to Allah through understanding that trials are inevitable, that they are measured according to one's capacity, and that patience transforms suffering into reward. The believer learns to face life with courage and trust. Hardships remove sins, elevate spiritual rank, and cultivate resilience, while the certainty that ease follows difficulty instills hope, perseverance, and gratitude. Faith grows strongest not in times of comfort, but in moments of adversity, when reliance upon Allah becomes absolute and the heart is refined by trials. The message is clear: no struggle is meaningless, no hardship is permanent, and no believer is alone. Those whom Allah tests are the ones He loves most, and every test is an opportunity to rise stronger, purer, and more steadfast in faith. By embracing trials with patience, trust, and sincerity, the believer transforms difficulties into blessings, pain into growth, and life itself into a journey toward closeness with Allah, a journey that shapes not only this world but the eternal hereafter.